I want to talk a little bit about triangulation. You know, when you start putting labels on things, a lot of times you miss the boat. Anytime you talk about doing something for people, and too many neoliberal Democrats have adapted that as well. They want to call you just a socialist, like it's a bad word. A lot have adapted the word democratic socialist because, again, if you really want to define a best working society is where people are more happy, etc., you would see that that is what you classify as democratic socialist. What does that really mean? Socialists mean, in the case of that kind of a government, if you will, one that takes care of its people's welfare and at the same time has very strong free enterprise. And there are a lot of countries in Scandinavia that follow that patterns. And when we look at the OECD nations and we look at the levels of happiness in these nations, the ones that care about their people, the ones that excel in education, etc., that is where you see it, right? These aren't communist countries where the state controls all the means of production and all of that. That's the way they like to define this, right? Talking about Trump and triangulation, I want to show you guys, I hope people start to pick up on this. Specifically, I hope the Democratic Party pick up on this. Because back in 2016, I'd written an article at Daily Kos. And the article, I pointed out that Donald Trump was triangulating the Democrats. What he was doing, he was picking up on the things that people really want, not the way neoliberals define what people want, but they were picking up on what people wanted, the policies that people wanted, the working class, doing things like, oh, I support union full-throatedly, are the things that Trump used to say. I support Medicare for all. He didn't quite call it Medicare for all. He said, everybody have health care and it's going to be cheap. Those are the things that he picked up on. Never intended to deliver it, but he knew what the people wanted to hear. Donald Trump we're talking about. There is a new thing that he has started to do. And we have all the Democrats coming out and said, not only Democrats, but of course the corporate folks, Republicans, etc., because he did two things, one good, one bad. The good thing was he said Intel is getting billions of dollars from the taxpayer. With those billions of dollars, Intel is bringing back production into the United States and going to make big profits on these chips that they sell. So we, the American people, would have invested a lot of money into Intel. And for that, Intel is going to sell computer chips all over the world at high prices and make huge profits, as they always do. And Donald Trump's administration comes out and say, we're going to take a stake in Intel for the money the government paid into Intel, recover some of that money, and recover a profit for having invested that money. When that came out and Joe Scarborough and all our neoliberal Democrats were going crazy, in my mind, I was like, finally, I can say I have to be consistent in the way I speak. I talk about government putting dollars into research and drugs all of the times. All these drugs are originally designed by investment from the governments. All our drugs that we use in healthcare are designed by the government, investment by the NIH and other. But when it's capitalized and the patents come out, the corporations privately held by shareholders who sit at their pools and drink their coffee and do no work. But we, the people, all of you, whether you are if you're sweeping floors or you're a secretary or you're a teacher or whatever, your tax dollars went into funding Intel's factories returned to the United States, and you are not going to get any, as we don't want to pay teachers their real worth, as we don't want to pay a better minimum wage, etc. At the same time, these companies are making a killing off of these drugs that they sell at very high prices from patents that a large percentage of it came from us, the taxpayer. So when Donald Trump comes out and he says, we are going to start taking a stake into these companies who are taking dollars from the United States, our investments, how wouldn't it not be hypocritical if I went ahead and said, Donald Trump is doing a bad thing there? I couldn't, right? I have to be intellectually honest. If you, the taxpayer, many of you having a hard time, but you're still paying your taxes. And then when Intel gets the money from the United States government and they make a big profit selling those chips that the United States government had a part in, only the rich people who have the money to buy Intel stock benefit from what all of us placed in there. So I don't have a problem with it. Now, of course, if a company develops its own stuff, let's call NVIDIA as an example, and Donald Trump now bribes NVIDIA and says, oh, NVIDIA, for you to sell to China, we got to get 15% of what you sell. Now, that is extortion, not the same thing. I don't agree with doing that to private companies at all. But if the government invests, and when we talk about government, we have to remember who government is. Government is all of us. We, the people, we pay the taxes. We do all these things in government. So I don't have a problem with it. Joe Scarborough this morning, I come into the studio, turn on Joe Scarborough, and Joe Scarborough is having a fit. We're socialists now because Secretary Lutnick, Commerce Secretary, is on an Axios show. And he says about Harvard and these other universities that get billions of dollars in research dollars, that when these research dollars create patents, and you guys, I don't believe in patents, okay? Let me just first tell you that. I think patents hold progress back and it creates a system where wealthy folks can get more wealthy. I kind of talk about that in my book. As I see it, class warfare only resorts to right-wing doom. I'm strong about this. Patents, well, I'll go into that another time. When these universities get their patents, the universities that get the most money are these elite universities that many of our people, of our working class, will never, ever attend these universities, will never, ever attend unless they get a scholarship or something, right? When the Commerce Secretary comes out and says, well, when these universities get patents, we want to say some of that from the government investment should go back into the coffers of the government. Again, I have to be intellectually honest. I don't have a problem with that, with some caveats. If the university is saying I'm using the profits from our patents for more research and to give scholarships to unrepresented, etc., I don't have a problem with that. Then that is effectively what I would want the government, if they take some patent money, to do with it. Service the people. That's what it's all about. The welfare, the well-being of the people. But for Joe Scarborough to simply shout out, oh, socialists. No, what he's saying is elitist. Because what he's saying is the government, we the people, all of you, I don't care what work you do, you are paying taxes of some form, federal and local. You buy gas, you're paying taxes, federal and local. You buy stuff in the grocery store, you're paying state taxes. You are paying taxes up the gazoo. I don't have a problem with us paying taxes, but let's not make our government simply be a transfer of wealth from all of us to the few. And believe it or not, a clock can be right twice a day. Even a dead clock can be right twice a day. Why? Because if the hands are stuck at 2:00, it's going to be correct at 2 a.m. and it's going to be correct at 2 p.m. And I'm going to be honest with you, Donald Trump having the pelotas to have his people come out. I want folks to understand I'm being intellectually consistent here. Right now, the way our government spend our tax dollars is always biased towards the wealthy. You take a look at what we invest in from the military, etc. The ones who profit are the big companies. Do I think Donald Trump is getting a heart? Absolutely not. Donald Trump is a crook. Make no mistake about it. And what he's doing here with the patent stuff that he's talking about, what he's doing with taking an investment in Intel and that sort of stuff is nothing more than smoke and mirrors. What he's doing in those two instances is correct. But the reason to grab that money has very little to do with giving it back to us all. It's really collecting that money to give it back to his friends. A budget that he blew, he's using the tariffs, taxing all of us people. He's using all these different external funding so that he decides who benefits. I wanted to be consistent there. I wanted to make sure and be consistent.
All of our country's problems, from polarization to ignorance on domestic and international issues to a complete misunderstanding of our economic and healthcare systems, are a direct result of a derelict mainstream media that too often bend over backwards to support corporate or bought politicians' wants as opposed to the people's needs for real information to make their lives better. Independent media is the only solution to inform truthfully and factually. Why? Because our loyalties are to you, the ones who fund us with small dollar contributions and subscriptions. Please consider supporting our independent media platforms by subscribing to our Egberto Off the Record newsletter at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. It's an investment that pays incalculable dividends.